I've recorded this video now like 3 times and I'm starting to get sick of it, so we're just gonna try one more time. Probably a new series where I create entire houses as a tutorial. The first video I'll be doing a free build. If you don't know what a free build is, basically everyone on the plot gets access to building and they need to work together or make their own builds. Admin people can grief the build, so we have stuff in this house to prevent stuff like that. But we're gonna get started right now. For this tutorial house, we have a small lobby area over here where we don't want players to build. So as soon as they enter this area, they won't be able to build. They go over here, they can. There are a total of 3 build ranks. There is 1 staff rank, and there is 1 band or griefer rank. I'll be showing you also how to set up warnings, so staff can give out warnings to players, or players can stay on the house to earn respect, which in turn can get them higher build ranks, giving them more permissions. To prevent griefers and stuff, it completely blacklists certain items, as well as warns staff when that person has gotten an item and tells staff the location of where they are. And yeah, that's the basics of the free build, so we're going to get into it right now. For starters, if we go to the housing menu and go to permissions and groups, you can see these 7 ranks here. Owner is just by default on housing. Not really much to show there. We have a staff rank that is priority number 20, and in the permissions, that's really up to you and what you want to do. We have 3 builder ranks. The only difference is that as you get higher in the building, you unlock teleport permissions as well as spawning pets, so not really that interesting, but rewards the players for being active and being respectful. And then a lobby rank, which has pretty much every permission that you would want, just not build, because this is the rank that will be given to them when they enter the lobby. And then we have a griefer rank given when a player reaches their 3 warnings or is just set to griefer by a staff member. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'm going to show you how to set up the lobby area where when you go in, you don't have a rank that lets you build. And when you go out, it gives you one of the 3 builder ranks. By default, Builder 1, and depending on the respect you have, Builder 2 or 3. Just for this tutorial, anything under 100 respect is Builder 1, Builder 2 is 100 to 500, and Builder 3 is 500 plus. Of course, that's completely up to you on if you want to have more builder ranks or not. I just think it's kind of cool, so we're showing that in this video. We'll show other features like respect and how that turns into different builder ranks later. Okay, so you're going to take a wand. You can do this by doing /wand and select the bottommost as well as topmost region of your lobby. I'd recommend making this even just a little bit bigger than you would probably normally have it. We're actually going to do that right now, so we'll select maybe here. Can we go any further down? Yeah, we can't. Can we go any more? No. Okay, so we have this region selected, so the goal is just to prevent them from being able to build in here. So once we have the region selected, go to our housing menu, go to systems, and create a new region. I already did this, and I have it labeled as spawn, so I'm not going to create another one. Let's go into spawn, and I'll show you the entry and exit actions. For entry, this means that we want the player to enter and get the lobby rank so they can't build. So we're going to have a conditional that checks if the player is staff or higher, or they have griefer rank, and then not or higher. We just want griefer. And we're going to make sure that match any condition is on, meaning that any of those is true. Then, if it is, then we'll just exit, meaning the rest of the code won't run. So if they're a griefer or a staff member, then they won't be set to the lobby rank, which is what they'll do if they are going into the lobby and not an active griefer or builder. Or, staff member. Very simple there. Exit is where we get a bit more complex. We have mostly the same thing here, where we check if they are a staff member or higher, or a griefer. Match any condition is on, so either of these conditions are met. Then we'll exit, meaning the rest of the code won't run. But now here we have to give them the appropriate rank. So if you have 1 build rank, then simply setting them to that build rank is all you really need. But because we have more, we have to do a bit more thinking. So if we're going to add another conditional, and then like I said before, if our respect is greater than 100 but less than 500, then they'll get build 2. Greater than 500, build 3. Otherwise, just build 1. Let's have a condition. So in the conditions, we're going to add a player stat requirement. We're going to check if the respect, which is the stat name that we use, is less than or equal to 99, which means that they are not quite at 100 respect yet. Then, we'll go back to the if actions and set their group to builder. The motion protection can be on, that's up to you. We'll go back and we'll create another conditional where we check if the respect is greater than or equal to 100, and also the respect is less than 500, then in that case we will give them the builder 2 rank. Then we'll create one last conditional. In the conditions, we check if the respect is greater than or equal to 500, which if it is, that means they should be given the builder 3 rank. Okay, and that's it. If you go out, you will be given the rank, and if you go back in, you'll be given the lobby rank. Okay, let's go over to the respect now. So the way I have respect work in this tutorial is that if you are actively building and in the build region or just anywhere on the house or just anywhere else in the house, you actively get respect. But if you're on the lobby or set to a griefer, then you won't be getting respect. And you just get 1 respect every 1 second. Let's go to the housing menu and go to systems and go to functions, where you can see we have our 3 functions for this tutorial. But the one we're going over specifically for respect is the respect giver. Left click to open it, and we have a few actions in here. We have a conditional first that checks if they are within the region spawn or they have the griefer rank determined by the match any condition. Any of the conditions are met. Then we will exit the rest of the code from running. So none of the code here will run. So if they are not in spawn and they are not a griefer, then we'll set their we'll have a player stat change player stat, change respect, increase it by 1, and then oops, we'll go back. Then we'll have a conditional that checks if they are a staff member or higher, which then we will stop. So we want staff to be able to get respect, because why not? It's mostly a meaningless stat for staff, but it still can be cool to see how long you've been in the house. So we're going to stop the rest of the code from running if they're a staff member, but we're still giving them respect because it's before that conditional. After that, we have another conditional which checks if the respect is greater than 100, or sorry, greater than equal to 100, but less than 500. So respect less than 500, which means that we should give them the Builder 2 rank, as they've been promoted because they now reach a new value. We have a last conditional. Respect is greater than 500, then we'll set this to Builder 3 because they have unlocked Builder 3. And that's it for the respect giver. We now just need to right click on it and set the automatic execution to 20 ticks, which I've already done. Which means that every 20 ticks, which is also equal to 1 second, it'll run this function. As you can see, if we are in the area, our respect goes up, but because we are a staff member, nothing's happening because we already have the highest rank. To show you how to display the respect on the scoreboard, we're going to go to the housing menu, go to systems, go to scoreboard editor, and we have a bunch of lines in here, but the line specific to the respect is here. We have use some color codes and then have stat.player/respect. And that's a placeholder, which you can see all the placeholders by doing /placeholders. I also have a video going all over these. What you've probably noticed on the scoreboard is warnings, and these are given out to players by staff if they break the rules in some way. Staff can do the command /warn and then the player name, and they will receive a warning. I'll show you right now what that looks like. So let's do /warn AL3X warrior. Do the command, we have a little bit of blindness, and the warning on the scoreboard has been increased, and we have a chat message that says, warning, you've been given a warning, you are at 1 out of 3, stop the bad acts. Let's go into the systems and then commands to see how this command works. Let's find /warn, which has already been created. Obviously, you need to create it yourself. Before we go into the actual actions, I'm going to right click on this command and make sure that toggle command mode is set to targeted, which means that you need to specify a player in order to actually have it run the code. Self just means when you do the command, it goes to yourself. Targeted means it has to be another target. And then the required group priority, we have set to 20, which means that only groups with 20 or higher can do this command. If we go to our permissions and groups, we have staff as number 20 for priority, and 3, the highest other rank, as 5. So none of the groups here can run the command. However, staff can, and owner obviously. Okay, so that's done. We went over this area. We're gonna actually go into the actions now and see what happens. So first, we start by setting our warns increase to 1. So the player, again, this is running for the targeted player. This is not running for ourselves. At this moment, on the recording this video, there's no way to make targeted commands also run on yourself. But anyways, we also have a conditional in here that checks if warns is greater than or equal to 3, which means that we need to change their group to the griefer because they have 3 out of 3 warnings. We have a few chat messages in here as well as a play sound, just telling the player that they have reached their final warnings, that they are now punished. And then the chat and sounds is up to you. Otherwise, which means that they haven't quite reached their 3 out of 3 warnings yet, in the else actions, we're just going to play a sound. We'll put out a quick some chat messages and the potion effect you saw, which is giving us that warning here. Yep, that's it for warnings. I will now do the warn command just on myself again. There it is, 2 out of 3, 3 to 3, and we have been banned. We have been set to griefer, but because we are the owner of the house, we actually can't have our rank changed. Okay, we're gonna edit my edit player stats, AO3X warrior. Warns set 0 because we don't want to have 3 warnings. That looks bad. We're going to be going on to the Blacklist, I guess, system on the house. I feel weird saying that, but whatever. So we have a function here, and when we right-click on this function before we actually get into the code, you can see that the automatic execution is set to 4 ticks, which is less than a second, which is very quick. And we'll go back and actually go into the actions now. So the blacklist, the items you want to blacklist is completely up to you. I would recommend different redstone stuff, maybe ocelot spawn eggs, because there's some delicious stuff you can do with those. Barriers, I don't know, a lot of stuff you can get from being in creative mode. So any items that you think would be annoying, I would just blacklist them. And in here, we have an example on how that would work. So we have a conditional here that checks if you are a staff member or higher, which we want staff to be able to access these items in case they're actually editing the house. So the if actions will have an exit, so the rest of the code won't run. We have another conditional in here that has a few conditions. Now these are up to you. So pretty much this conditional and later is up to you on how you want it to work. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to also send a message to active staff members saying that someone has been using a blacklisted item. I'll show on screen right now what that looks like for both the victim holding a blacklisted item as well as a staff member who gets the alert. So we'll show you how to do that right now. So get your items that you want to blacklist, make another conditional, and in this conditional, put the items that you have. So we have an item here for a sticky piston. I would make sure this is on item type instead of metadata. Make sure this is on anywhere in the inventory, and required amount can be any amount. And you can have the exact same thing with a bunch of different items. So we have a sticky piston, redstone block, and a ocelot spawn egg. And because these are blacklisted now, in the if actions, which means they have one of these items, actually we should probably match any condition. I forgot to do that when I was setting this up, but that means any of these conditions are met. So they have any of these items. Then we'll start by resetting their inventory, which is all you really need for this. However, I do want to send an alert to staff members, so we're going to set a few global stats here, and global stats are accessible by any player in the house. So what we do is set a global stat bad guy X, which is the player's X position, to the player.location.x, which is the X position of the player. We have the same thing for bad guy Y, we set this to the Y position, and bad guy Z, we set this to the Z position. We also set alert ID, set that to 1, and we trigger the function staff alert for all players. And we haven't gotten to the code of where this is actually used yet, so this might seem a little confusing, but it is explained later. And once again, you can just have this reset the inventory if you want to. Okay, so what the heck does staff alert do? So let's go to the staff alert function to see what happens. So in staff alert, we have 3 conditionals. Now for the first conditional, we simply check if they are a staff member. Because this function is triggered for all players, we want to make sure that they are a staff member. Otherwise, we'll exit out, so the rest of the code will stop running. And then these are the actual alerts. So the first conditional, we check if alert ID is equal to 1, which you saw earlier, is set when a player has a blacklisted item. And then in the if actions, we just send a message. So alert a player at stat.global/badguyX, badguyY, and badguyZ was holding a blacklisted item, and then we will play a sound just to alert the staff member to look in chat. And that's it for that. The staff member will get an alert. You can see on screen this happening for both the victim and the staff member. The other conditional here we'll get into later when we show you how to allow players to actually report other players, and which will also be sent to staff. Alright, so we have another command. It's hreport, and we're going to right click on this, and you can see that it's also targeted, but the required group priority is 0, so anyone can do this command. If we open it up, we have a few things in here. For starters, an issue I had at first when I was first making this is that the command can be spammed, which in turn spams staff members, and we obviously don't want that to happen. So I thought of a way to make a delay, so basically every 1 minute, that player can get reported. Otherwise, anyone reporting them has to wait a minute to report again. So we're going to have a change player stat. We set the value temp, which is just going to be a temporary value. Set that to date.unix, which is the amount of seconds passed since like January 1st, like 1970, something like that. And then in the next change player stat, we take that temp and subtract stat.player/last reported, which is a stat we'll get into later, which we created. But basically what happens here is it gets the current time, subtracts a specific amount of time, and if that time, determined by this conditional, so temp is greater than or equal to 60, meaning 60 seconds has passed, we will first update the time, so now they will need to wait another minute, and then we'll set some stats. So bad guy X, bad guy Y, these are global stats, bad guy Z, and then the alert ID to 2. And then we'll trigger the function staff alert, which if we go back to staff alert, the next condition, we check if alert ID is 2, which if it is, we'll say that a player was reported at specific coordinates. On screen will be right now, will be me reporting someone, and then once staff see the report, they could just teleport to those coordinates and see who was reported. Maybe they're griefing, and then they can get the proper warning, or just completely banned if you want to. One final command is featured on a lot of houses, is just the melt command. So melt command, it's a self command, you don't need a priority for it, so anyone can do it. All it does is clear all potion effects and plays a sound. Just so if someone were to splash potions, you can use /milk and get rid of the effects. And that's really it. There might be something that you missed in the tutorial or didn't import properly into your house. So if you need help at any time, you can join my Discord, the Housing Hub Discord. And that's it. You can probably release your house now, but before you do, there are some things to help on a house release, which I'll go over right now. Go to your housing menu, go to house settings. Make sure the max players is set to actually whatever you want. Some free builds like to max this because if there's too many players, it can be hard to manage. Personally, I think dynamic, meaning 250, is fine. If you want to change stuff like time selector, you can change the house name, which I'd recommend. House tags, obviously this is up to you on what you want to do. House language, I would set this by default. A lot of people, the most used language on housing is English, so unless you have a specific language, there's not much to do. To end this off, make sure you go to the house settings, go to player data, and make sure that player stat durations, the default durations, is 14D for 14 days if you do not have Housing Plus. But if you do have Housing Plus, which is a paid one-time purchase on the Hypixel store, you can do 365 days, which means that stats will save for 365 days. And do the same thing for player state durations, 365 days. This will ensure that all their stats save, so they can't do some kind of exploit to get their warnings undone or something like that. But yeah, that's going to end off this video. I appreciate you for watching. Before we actually do end, though, I do want to point out that this channel now has memberships. If you are interested in supporting me for a small price, you can become a Tier 1 member or a Tier 2 member with the perks for each will be on screen. Tier 2, however, specifically gives you access to the source code to all of my more complex videos, like my AI videos or videos like that. So if that's something you're interested in, do check that out. It supports me directly. And yeah, that's going to end this video. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.